Welcome back, you guys, to another Because of Sales podcast episode. In this one, you're not going to believe it, another Austin local homie who's in the sales online business space, but in a little bit of a different capacity. So Alec has a very unique role. He basically took his understanding of sales and online info marketing, paired that up with a door-to-door industry that's booming and needs a lot of talent. And he's bridging the gap between using social platforms for high volume recruiting and the traditional door-to-door sales industry. So Alec recruits, I think he said, about 150 people successfully per quarter into door-to-door solar company, and not just any door-to-door solar company, a very specific kind. So if you're interested in what the evolution of your sales ability can look like when you learn things like marketing, paid ads, info, online business structures, then this is a good episode for you. And honestly, Alec is just a cool dude, fun dude to kick it with. And this is the first time I've been able to really dive into understanding what it is that he does. It's a little bit more complicated than just saying recruiting or sales recruiting. So if you ever plan on hiring, watch this episode, especially if it's a salesperson and especially if it's door to door. Now, before we get into it, my only ask, just like it is every week, is to go down below and subscribe to our free newsletter. Every week, every Wednesday morning, less than a 5-minute read, we're going to send you all the latest as it pertains to sales reps from across the internet, cool stuff that's working, not so cool stuff that's not working, tips, tricks, memes, AI stuff. And our goal is to just be your pulse on the state of selling. As a sales professional, you should know what's going on in the industry outside of just your specific niche. You have this very unique ability to sell things and facilitate exchanges of value. Don't box yourself into selling one thing forever. Know what's working, know what other people are having success with. Subscribe to our newsletter. It's free. I'll give you a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Now into the episode. You guys, we're back with another Because of Sales podcast episode. We've got a local Austin homie, someone who I've gotten the pleasure to know over the last 3-4 months. We got Alec Minkoff on. Thanks for coming on, man.
What is up, man? It feels good to be called an Austin local.
You were, I know you came from Dallas. Are you from Dallas, like born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised Texas boy.
There's a scene out there, but it's a little different than the online biz scene here, right?
Yeah, completely different. Almost every person I met at your event, I was trying to convince to move to Austin because it is just such a great place and great for connections.
If you don't know who Alec is, he runs, and I'm going to let you explain it to you guys because he can do it much better than me. But he is on here because he has expertise around recruiting and door-to-door sales, maybe some particular industries that we're going to really shine some light on, and want you to just kind of get a view into his world and what works for him, what he's found success with, and maybe take away a nugget or two to implement into your own process, business, whatever it might be relevant to you. So, Alec, can you explain to the people who are not familiar with you or what you do, what exactly you do?
Absolutely. So I, at a high level, recruit for a door-to-door sales company. And so what that means is we run ads on multiple different places, sites that are essentially, in high ticket sales terms, leads, people that are interested in working for us. We put them through our vetting process with appointment setters. We have a very strong vetting process because our average rep makes a lot of money. So we don't hire just everybody. We kind of are different in the industry because we have a very top 1% team. From there, we set them up with interviews with managers on our team, and then they get hired and handed to the door-to-door company. So I'm overseeing the entire recruiting process. But my expertise, originally I started in sales, but marketing is where I spend most of my time. So it's cool to have a marketing role in a sales team. So you kind of get to see the best of both worlds is kind of what I do now.
When it comes to sheer number of like applications and hires that you've been responsible for like this company, do you have any rough numbers you can share?
Yeah, I wish I knew the exact. I know last quarter we had 90 landed reps through my efforts. I know we landed 150 reps last quarter, but I don't know what percentage. I know it's at least over 100 have been directly from me. Yeah, it's been applications wise has been in the thousands. We accept maybe like top 5% of applicants that apply. Cause I mean, when we advertise what you can make as a door rep, cause I'm sure you're familiar with that, a lot of people want to be a part of it. So we accept a small percentage of them, but over 100 reps have been hired through me.
That's a lot, dude. I've done like recruiting and I know that that's a lot of work that goes into it. But I feel like a lot of these other companies, dude, they're more willing to take on anybody to see if they work out. Whereas the way that you guys run things, it's like you're actually more selective on the front end. Why do you think more people don't do that?
You have to really believe in what you do. So I know other people in other industries that I talk with and obviously learn from. And it takes, for lack of a better term, like putting your balls on the table to say, hey, I'm going to, one, keep my culture top notch. Like I have a lot of respect for the owner of the door-to-door company that I work with. He has the highest standard of anybody I know and will not let reps stay if they're below target. Or if they're a top performer and they're a bad culture fit, cut them. You know what I mean? So keeping that standard really high is important. And if you don't believe in your product, it's easier to just let everybody in and just see who sticks. But if you truly know you have good culture, it makes you very like attached to your culture and you won't let the subpar people in because it could really hurt. You know this. One bad salesperson can hurt a whole team.
I want to spend more time kind of like going into that, but I do want to give a little bit more context before we fully dive into it. You mentioned a lot of your background is actually in the marketing side of things. I don't know anybody else. I feel like I know a good amount of people in this online space, sales, recruiting, door to door, but I don't know anybody else who like does what you do. So like, how did you even end up being the marketer for the recruiter of like such a thing like this?
How did I end up in a role that's really hard to explain? So, well, my original expertise is in info. Well, I guess originally I ran a video agency when short form came out. Videography was my first skill. I worked for a mentor of mine who was an entrepreneur in mortgage. Like I literally quit my job and was like, I was in sales and I was like, I'll quit everything to go learn from you. He taught me how to build a business. I started a videography company, like ran it myself, kind of started to hate it a little bit. And then he ended up launching an info product a few years later. And I was like, hey, I'll be the integrator. I'll build the studio. I'll build the course. I'll build the funnels, I'll build the ads, like all that. I really wanted to get into it. So for about a year, I ran that with him, had a couple successful launches that were really fun. Wasn't really exactly the long-term play I wanted. I liked info, but I'm the biggest fan of traditional businesses where you can like use info like tactics. Like the info tactics are so innovative and in such a hard market that I was like, I want to find a market that doesn't have competitors that are info competitors. And then I was trying to exploring some different products that I could sell because marketing was what I liked. My friend the whole time that runs this company had been trying to recruit me because he knew, my skill sets and we'd been friends for years. And we studied webinars together and like we would be on Zoom calls all the time. And eventually got to the point where he was like, hey man, we're scaling really fast. We need someone to run this side of the business. And I was like, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I started with running the ads. Very quickly, the appointment setting team was not up to compliance, was not organized, was not tracking KPI. I was like, cool, I can fix that in a second. Built sales scripts for it, built a team, hired them out, started to delegate that. And then so it just grew into building the whole process at some point.
Wait, so your friend is the owner of the door-to-door company
Yeah.
Okay. So you just started taking on like more and more for them.
Yeah, essentially became an integrator, intrapreneur rather than an entrepreneur. So I was like, hey, my vision can fit in your vision kind of situation.
When you are navigating that relationship, do you see it as like, hey, this is a client, or do you see it as like more of a partnership, or how do you like, do you have other clients, or are you like all in with their company, their vision?
I've definitely been offered other clients slash rev share slash partnerships, but I see it as a partnership and not necessarily in terms of equity, but in terms of effort. One, because he's made it very fair to me. And two, I learned early on, the more I split my time up, I felt like I could go farther with this company because of how large it is. Like it's over 7 figures a month and it's growing and I can be a big part of that growth. And I really and truly respect my friends so much. My problem with business owners in the past that I've been offered with is it takes so much for me to want to put the level of effort required, like similar to probably how a sales agency would be. Like if you partner with a new client, like you'd have to really agree with a lot of things that they decide to do in order to make the money you want to make as having other clients. So there are situations where in the future I would take on other clients potentially, but I've learned one thing is better than multiple things. So I'm just kind of like okay with building his vision and helping him.
I mean, as long as you're incentivized, right? Like, honestly, dude, those are the best freaking situations you can be in. And there really is no shortage of opportunity. What there is a shortage of is bandwidth, right? So,
Yeah,
like,
great way to say it.
if you're good at something, the opportunity, it'll be there. You just got to really focus in on what it is that you want or where you see the most opportunity. Because if you focus on too many things, you're going to get nothing, right?
Absolutely. Chase two rabbits, you catch neither.
Hold on. Can you back that up? When you partnered originally with a solar company, you were starting with some smaller tasks. And you mentioned, I know you talked about the appointment setter, some scripts, like process workflow. And you said you took that expertise from working in the info space pretty much.
Yeah, so I sold a course for mortgage loan officers for a year. And that one I built more of an operational background, like how to fulfill courses and products and CRM stuff. And then shortly after that, I was trying to build an inside sales team for a medical device. Long story short, I found out about phone sales, like virtual selling. And I was like, this is the greatest thing. Like, fell in love with it. I was like, I can market for this and sell it myself. So that's where I built the skill set of the phone sales team plus the back end fulfillment, was those two opportunities. Sort of skills got stacking, if you will.
And then the guy that owns the door-to-door company that you met with, is this like a longtime friend of yours, or how did you come across?
Yeah, man, we met in a mastermind in probably 2021, 2022, and we just were just fast friends. And I obviously watched him build his business. At the beginning, a door-to-door sales company is very freaking hard to build. I mean, the product is really cool. And when I found out more about it, I was like, oh, this is just a really cool business. We would sit on Zoom calls for hours building webinars, for me for the product, him for selling his. And so eventually it was just a friendship that went into business. But we saw how each other worked independently of being involved together.
This just came up. I probably typically talk about this later in the podcast, but came up in my mind. I don't want to forget about it. This whole thing going around with solar tax credits, new legislation. Like, what's your take on all that stuff that's happening?
Yeah, it's funny. I get that question a lot, which is good. Means people know. I'm not the most up to date on it, but so the way that I understand it, so what we do, it's important to distinctly differentiate what we do with solar panels. So there's two types of solar. The most common is solar panels on a roof. We don't sell solar panels on a roof. I'm actually like morally against those. We sell access to solar farms. So essentially solar farms, we sell on behalf of them. And it's not really selling because you can sign someone up for free. So the difference between our close and a solar close is there's no appointment setter and closer in the solar world. It's only in the recruiting side. So we knock on a door. Hey, would you like 10% off your bill? Cool. Let me explain it to you, justify it to you, fill out this form. And then in 30 minutes, they're closed. There's no set and close. It's just right there closed. The rep gets a commission and they get a free program that's a 10% discount. So it is a cracked offer. Like, it is insane how easy it is to sell. Now, in terms of like legislation, my understanding of what it's done is so the solar farms were getting big credits for doing the construction and building the farms. It's kind of front loaded that. So a lot of them that were taking like years to do those projects are going to rush the projects and get them done faster. My understanding, again, limited understanding of it, and which is good for us right now because capacity is opening up. But long term, what's really cool about building a sales team, again, like skill over vehicle in a way, is like we can take our sales team and apply it to different industries. It obviously has their own drawbacks to switching industries, but we can sell door to door, literally anything. We have the hardest part, which is a top 1% team. So we're not too concerned about it long term, but short term, it's just like a front loaded opportunity where we're getting all the work early.
Yeah, you and I, we talked about that before. Like, we have the team, we have the talent, the structure. We could hypothetically sell whatever we wanted to, which I think that would be cool to talk about a little bit later. So I understand. And so the listeners understand. I, came from the roofing space. I know a little bit of solar. I kind of agree with you that like there's some pros and some cons to like solar on their house. And it makes sense, the whole concept of like the solar farms. So the company that you're helping with the recruiting, are they basically closing these deals, signing the contracts, and then like selling the contracts to the solar farm? They're not the ones who own the solar farm, are they?
No, so we work on behalf of, just say it simply, we work on behalf of the solar farm. So imagine like you're a farmer and you have 100 apples, right? And you need to sell your apples to people. They would hire us to go sell their apples for them, right? So it's the same idea. We're just connecting them to the solar farm. The solar farm makes the money because they get the electricity so cheap, they can resell it to the power provider for an arbitrage, for a margin.
Yeah. And do you guys work for multiple like solar farm companies, or is it one? Okay.
Yeah. We're in like, depending on the time, like 6 different states. Each state might have 1 to 2 solar farms, sometimes even more. But yeah, we work with sort of a network of them.
I know you mentioned you're not as in it, but do you think that, traditional solar on the house model is fizzling out?
Yeah, that's what I've heard anyway, specifically because of the legislation. But yeah, I don't know in terms of like sales side, because no matter how much I think, like, it's really the contracts I think that are rough. But regardless, I do hear that it is shriveling up a little bit, mainly because of the legislation. Again, just what I hear.
So in the Because of Sales thing, we write a weekly newsletter, and I'm always looking for any and every news article and just like recent events that have to do with salespeople, sales teams, whatever. And it's funny, dude, a lot of the negative ones around aggressive door-to-door people or contracts taking advantage of people, they're in the solar industry. And I know it's kind of the wild, wild west, but like there's definitely some people in that traditional solar space that are just not doing right by the homeowners.
The worst part about what we do is that it has the word solar in it. If it was anything other than solar, it would be completely like a lot better, but it makes recruiting hard.
Let's talk about that a little bit. When it comes to your division of this side, which is like the marketing and crossover with the recruiting, do you have a team that works under you, or are you the guy that like really is combing through applications, taking interviews and that kind of stuff?
No, I have 4 people underneath me currently. So just my involvement is kind of the overseer of all of it. I don't talk to the recruits. I don't interview them. I just look at each stage for a bottleneck, essentially, is my role. And then I attack that bottleneck. So it might be lead gen is the bottleneck. It might be getting them landed, which is currently something we're working on, which we can talk about. But I have 4 people underneath me that do all the initial screening. They handle the process up until the interview. We have 7 people that do interviews, depending on like, we'll just hand it off depending on which teams need the most reps. And then from there, they get handed to the door-to-door team for fulfillment, if you will.
We've like talked a little bit about this, and I understood kind of briefly what you did, but now as we're kind of talking about the details, I'm like, that's actually a pretty cool model. And I think it could apply to a lot of industries. Running ads for recruiting. I know a lot of people who run ads. I don't really know a lot that run ads for recruiting, at least successfully like that. What are some things that you've learned when it comes to running ads to hire good salespeople that other people probably don't know or would benefit by knowing?
Well, I would say the most important thing is your standard. Just because someone says that they'll do it doesn't mean that they're a good hire. I'm sure you've been through this. It's cool because I've learned most of my sales leadership lessons through running this team because I was never a leader of a sales team, just a sales rep. So like I knew how to crush the phones, like talk time and dials, like no one would be ahead of me, but I didn't know how to run a team, totally different skills. Michael Jordan versus Phil Jackson kind of thing. And not to say I was Michael Jordan, but whatever. What I've learned is that now for the 4 guys directly underneath me, firing fast and not hiring the wrong person are the most imperative things to having at least the stage 1 of a good culture. And so when we recruit, I'm cutthroat. If it's any sign of not going to be a good rep, I won't even send you the link to continue the application on the phone. Like occasionally I'll talk to like leads because I need to get a feel for them and see how it's going. Since I'm incentivized on the back end through how much money they make for the company, if I don't feel like you're going to be a good fit for the reps that I'm friends with on our team, not even a shot at getting on our team. We just have such a high standard and we believe so much that if the right person's there, they can make a lot of money. That conviction is just so strong that I feel like I'm totally willing to say no to someone. Whereas if I didn't care about that and I just wanted the number of reps, like if that was the vanity metric, I'd probably just be like, yeah, dude, you're cool. You can fly out. Come on in. You know what I mean?
You don't have to get like super specific, but when you have a rep go through and you mentioned that your payment is contingent on them coming in, being good, working out, are you getting like flat fee or do you get like percentage of their output?
I get a revenue share, and it's also similar to anybody who recruits for us, even if they're not in our company, they get the same revenue share. Obviously my advantage is we run ads to fuel reps, but what's cool, like anybody that wants to recruit, and we're not like an MLM, so we don't do like, if you recruit someone and they recruit someone, it's more of like, hey, if you have a friend that wants to work for us, we pay you a percentage of what they make. It's a really great model, I think. But yeah, I get a percentage based on their performance.
So that being said, like, are you on the flip side of that going on the idea that, hey, I don't want to hire bad reps? Like, are you going to be penalized if they don't work out? Like, besides you just not wanting to be an asshole, like what's truly stopping you from seeing if somebody will work out?
Well, luckily, it's not really my decision. So the managers that do the interviewing are actually pretty high up in the door-to-door teams. So they'll do the interviews themselves and they manage, I think it's at least 25 people underneath them to be at the level of manager. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember the exact metric, but they're very smart individuals. They have to have their stamp of approval for them to even get hired onto the team. So luckily, it's sort of this multi-angle situation where if the first guy, the screener is like, hey, like I like this guy, the second guy is the final vote of approval. And if they let them through, then it's sort of, we look at that and go, okay, how did they get through? And I'm super honest with them. I'm like, look, I don't want you guys to hire anybody for my sake or for any sake other than you think he's a good fit or she's a good fit on the team. That is the only reason. I'm pretty like stark about it.
Yeah. All right. Big viral clip moment here. What is the number one unspoken red flag about a sales candidate that literally they have a 0% chance of success or making it to be even hired that you've noticed across all these recruits?
I'll tell you what questions we ask them to vet them. And I would say the number one red flag is them talking up a storm in the interview. I mean, silent killers are absolutely the ones that we look for that have a past track record of success without having to brag about it. At least that's what I talked about in my interviews naturally. But the questions that we ask people is, and it might vary depending on industry, is what's a form of adversity you've overcome? And that answer alone can tell us a lot about that sales rep, what they decide to tell us about, what they've actually dealt with, whether it's something like stupid. And then where they see themselves in 5 years is also a great one that tells us like, hey, what is your vision? Sometimes, they're like, I want to be a millionaire and they're not even remotely close, which sure, I love shooting for the stars. But if you have strategic set, like smart goals, then it's a huge green flag because we're looking for people that have longevity within the company, not just, I mean, sure, we'll hire someone that we think is going to be a good rep, but if we can tell you're strategic, we're like, all right, that dude's going to make it into management. So we look for people that have realistic, not realistic in the sense of small goals, realistic as in, oh, I think you can actually achieve that.
Like they have big, meaningful goals that they have an actionable plan to work towards, right?
Yeah. It's not like I want to have 8 houses and $5 million in the bank. So how are you going to do it? I don't know. Like, good luck, dude.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. So I remember you talking about when we met to grab some coffee, talking about like, some of these guys that are coming to work with you and how they're literally like changing their lives. And I've seen some of y'all's content. You guys are kind of posted up around the country, knocking doors. A lot of college age kids are just changing the trajectory of their lives and their families' lives. But you don't have to name drop. But I'm curious if there's one story that comes to mind in terms of someone that came with maybe not much and now is in like a very good spot from working with y'all.
Dude, I'll name drop all day. Carter Payne, Rowdy Hill. What I love about what we do is like, we're so transparent. We're like, dude, go message 50 of our reps and ask them, like ones that quit. I don't even care. But no, I'll tell you their stories. Screw their names. Doesn't matter. But someone that started with nothing is a little tough. Rowdy Hill, I know specifically came from like, actually an even better, well, similar one that he's good friends with. His name is Christian James. We call him Country. He was working on the railroad, which every time I say it, I almost say the song like working on the, like it's so terrible, but he was literally working on a railroad, which I didn't know he still did. And he was in like a tent or some stupid living environment making like $15 an hour. Kid's got a work ethic, all the potential in the world, finds out about us through, I don't know where. It could have been a video, it could have been a rep. I think he saw someone's TikTok. And this is why recruiting is so important, because people like this would never have found it if we didn't like put effort into it. And he flies out. I don't remember what his first month is, but now he's like a trainer of trainers. He's like a phenomenal rep. He's made over 6 figures. He's pacing that each month. He will cry when he tells his story, and we have interviews of it. But I have a million of those. We had a guy named Carter Payne that I just mentioned. He was in the Church of Latter-day Saints, and which you might know do mission trips where they knock. And he decided not to go to college, and his parents almost like just, they wouldn't talk to him almost. They were like, dude, that's such a mistake. This is stupid. His first month out, like literally from straight training, made over $20,000. And he got, just to be clear, got paid on that like 2 weeks after he closed it, which is different from most solar companies. No shade. But he literally got that in his bank account. And now he's making like ridiculous amounts of money. I think he was number 2 in the company. And it's unfortunately his parents still haven't kind of accept that. But people that just got utterly doubted and in the first month just changed their life. And now they're making like more money than they know what to do with. And they can start thinking about investing. Like there's just so many stories similar to that.
All right, you guys, quick break for the sponsor of this week's podcast episode, the Serial Sales Community. Now, you're a Because of Sales listener because you're a salesperson. I don't know what industry you're in. We have people that listen from all different industries. But if you are not yet in the high ticket remote 1099 setting or closing industry, well, this advertisement is for you. So I run a business. I've been running it long before Because of Sales, called the Serial Sales Community. I put my first and last name on this. I blasted across the internet with full conviction because we're really good at what we do. You've probably got a lot of sales training. You probably don't need that in order to land a remote contracted sales role. What you need access to is proximity. So if you want access to the 650 jobs that we shared in October and a revolving door of new opportunities as they come, it's not the stuff you're going to find on LinkedIn. It's not the stuff from Indeed, not the stuff from Glassdoor. It's the stuff from the Serial Sales Community. This isn't insurance. This isn't some pay-to-play MLM kind of deal. We just run a community of people like you, like me, who've had success in the remote sales space or who are pursuing that. And it's not a bad option if you like working from wherever, as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, make your own schedule, have contractor benefits. There's a lot of reasons why you might like doing this. So anyways, if you are interested in that, second link in the description down below is going to be a page with a video with more information. If you're really interested, book a call with the team and mention Because of Sales. We'll give you a 5% discount any membership you choose. Thank you for listening. Now let's get back to the pod. sometimes I have to stop and think, like, when you're in a position similar to you or myself or anyone who owns a company or is involved in like empowering these guys to change their lives, like, sure, yeah, they make 10K, 20K very quickly, and that in itself is life changing. But like the foundation that you're giving them, the belief in themselves that you're giving them, and then what they now think is possible or see as achievable, like, dude, you can't even predict that just because they made 10K in a month with you, where that leads them in 3 years' time, right? I made a post about this recently, but I feel like a lot of us that get into this online sales marketing space, we kind of come in maybe a little young and naive. It's like, look at these people doing all this cool stuff. They're taking trips and they got cool cars and all that. And that stuff is fun, but like eventually it kind of wears off. And then it's like, all right, why am I doing this? Like, do I feel good about what I do? Do I sleep well at night? And the stuff like what you just mentioned, some of those stories, I mean, nobody could take that away from them, but nobody could take it away from you, right? Like being involved in that whole process. So
It makes it to where this is a really bad example, but like in Schindler's List at the very end, if you've seen that movie, it's basically about the Holocaust and he like saved people. At the very end, he like is thinking about how many more people he could have saved because he was like could have sold this and bought and helped another person survive. And you start to think about when you can like actually give people jobs that are great. I have a hard time sitting in front of someone who's an ideal recruit in person. Like, let's say I meet them somewhere randomly. They literally don't believe me in terms of like how much money they make and stuff. And it sucks. I'm like, man, it's one more person's life I could change. But one of my favorite mentors says you can't make someone rich. But you're right. It is really cool seeing your wins too. Cause I see you post them on your story and I'm like, dude, this stuff is crazy. These people literally have developed a skill set now. Like you said, they can go anywhere. It's a really cool thing to do that, to be even a small part in like getting them there.
yeah, it's hard to believe, dude. Like, most people don't even consider sales as an option. For a lot of people, sales is like a fallback, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to be a doctor, engineer, whatever, lawyer. I feel like very few people come up and they're like, I'm going to be a salesperson. The ones that like get into it and they lean into it, dude, you can live such a fulfilling life by being a salesperson, and you can sell something that you have 110% conviction in and change other people's lives. If you're not selling something like that, you're selling the wrong thing. Go find the thing that you feel good about. But I mean, obviously I sell a community access for people in the remote space. And when we show people like, yeah, dude, this dude, made $1,000, $2,000 today, whatever, people that aren't in the space are like, oh, that's hard to believe. It's too good to be true, whatever. And I know it's the same with door to door.
Thanksgiving sucks, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't talk about anything.
When your parents ask you like, oh, how's the little side gig going?
I'm just like, I mean, I don't know. People hate on door to door. Like, luckily, what you do has a lot of, I imagine, a respectable reputation. Door to door gets hated on like crazy, and I'm like, I don't care. But it's so funny.
No, there's definitely some nuance to it for sure. The hard part about what the remote stuff is, like, old people just don't even understand it. They're like, what do you mean you talk to the computer? Like, they understand door to door. They think it's annoying, but like the remote stuff is like, yeah, I don't know. When are you going back to school?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, I sat in a room with, I don't remember what he did. It was a cool spot and everything. And the guy asked like what I did. And I said, we run door to door sales. And he was like, oh, that still exists. And then they went on to talk about like, something AI related, which was cool to listen to. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking like the numbers that the company does are cool, but I like that it does that it's that successful. And it's not even that big of a company. I mean, we're big in the community solar space, but I was like, dude, this company is building more millionaires than like all this other like random stuff. And then like you hear them talk about what they think is cool. And I'm like, I would never talk down on someone else's profession ever. I have no desire to, like, unless you scam people, which is like, that's a whole different story. But there's a lot of judgment. But at the end of the day, I mean, Hermosi says it a lot, I mean, you got to ignore what people think. And that's usually where the money's made. So I think sales is one of the most respectable professions because you have to deal with so much rejection, so much things that most people aren't willing to do. And everybody else wants to look flashy and not make money. And I'm like, I'm not that way. I don't care if it's grungy and disgusting. Like, sales isn't really disgusting, but if it's hard, doesn't matter. I'm here to make a better future for my family. Nothing to do with what people think.
Yeah, Hermosi said it like multiple times, and I literally was telling this to someone today. It's like, okay, let's say you get into sales, people are gonna hate, right? Let's say you don't get into sales, you go do something else, people are gonna hate. You're gonna get it either way. Would you rather be hated for doing well or like
doing what you want? Yeah, I'd rather do what I want and F them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hermosi likes sales a little bit, so I trust his opinion.
yeah, you got the books back there.
Yeah, I gotta take him down. I don't want to look like a fanboy.
I was gonna ask you, you mentioned AI, but like, Is there any part of your process that you've been implementing AI or testing?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I try it constantly. As bad as it sounds, like I want it to be proven that it can beat anything that we do. And I know it will at some point, but our like most common demographic, I would say the people that attract to us the most tend to be on the younger side, like college age is usually like the sweet spot for people that can fly out and do door to door. And the unfortunate part about that age demographic is that they're so hyper aware of AI. Like I was talking to another info product that I'm involved with, real estate investing, that I'm actually a client of. And I was looking at their marketing and I was laughing because I'm like, dude, you guys could AI this all day. Usually 40-year-olds are their audience. I'm like, none of them would recognize it's AI. My audience, bro, they'd be texting back clear instructions, like, just mess with our stuff. So, like, absolutely, we do try it. I have found, though, especially with, again, we don't sell a product. Most companies that are in our type of structure sell a product and their job ends once they collect payment. For us, it doesn't end there. So we have to be so careful on who makes it to the calendar because our front end cost is not covered. It sometimes repels the best people and attracts the worst in our case. So there are some things that we do try. I mean, in marketing, I use it like crazy, but for the sales side in particular, I haven't really cracked it to where it's better than the people that I train.
I guess like getting it away from like the sales and marketing side, one of my favorite use cases of AI is just like analyzing and interpreting data, right? Like call recordings and taking all the calls, all the interviews and being like, hey, here are the traits of the best people. Here are the top 5 traits. So you can then create like SOPs. I'm with you in that boat that AI, like sales agents are still a little far off. AI marketing, people who are savvy can kind of sniff that out. Is there anything that you're using more on the back end, like internally, that is helping you with the recruiting process or interpreting data and things of that sort with AI?
That's actually a really good idea to have it analyze the sales calls for the best traits. I feel like what we do is so repetitive that, we don't have necessarily the same type of objection you would see with closing a deal. And our people that are interviewing have been doing door to door for like probably near a year, so they're pretty seasoned. But no, that's a really good idea. I haven't had it analyze call. We do use AI for the calls or like Fathom and stuff, but I wouldn't say that's the same level as what you're talking about by any means. So that's definitely something we can implement. I do use it a lot for data. Like I'll have it give me its opinion on what I should do on the marketing side based on numbers. But no, that's good though. Sales or interview call analysis is a great idea.
I'm a numbers guy, dude. Like I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that. So I love using AI for that. Even though sometimes it can like hallucinate and not be accurate, but I'm like in that rabbit hole deep.
So give me an idea. So what kind of numbers are you looking for? Like, are you looking at sales calls and thinking like, what is the percentage of this objection, or what kind of like data are you ideally seeing?
I mean, there's so many things. Like I'm in the process of building this out. We run interviews with people who come through our community and hit big milestones. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting all the transcripts of that. And really what I'm more interested in is making like a database that I can query and like pull different things from versus like, hey, this tells me the top traits, like this one tool tells me the top traits of all the successful people. I just want the data there so I can go in there and just start asking questions. So like if we have someone that comes to us that used to sell cars and I'm like, hey, tell us about someone who used to sell cars and how they had success. And then I take that, send it over to somebody. So that's with like the success stories. But then we also have stuff with like, we could make stuff with the close calls, or in your case, like hired applicants or the people we rejected, and then train the team on like, these are the people we want, these are the people we don't want.
That's great. We could make ad scripts based on onboarded calls.
I think this episode, it's going to come out like a couple weeks before you, but Nick Verge is copywriter, does a lot of AI stuff.
He's brilliant with AI.
Yeah, he put me on something where they basically took like the last 20 closed sales calls and he put all this into an LLM and then asked it like, give me the top 5 objections that we've received on these calls and then keep like a tally of how many times they came up. And I think the number one objection that came up 14 times in these calls was like, I'm tired or something like that. And so in their marketing, they run that back up to the front end and it's like, are you tired? Whatever. It's like a fitness offer. So I feel like there's just a lot of use cases and I don't know, AI, it's interesting because it's moving so fast, dude.
Mhm.
And it's hard to like invest the time into systems because what you built today could be obsolete like in 2 weeks. But I think the best use case is just like having a database that you can query. And then if you're like a sales rep, dude, like doing that with your leads in the CRM, like a lot of door-to-door guys record conversations.
Yeah, we record all of ours.
Yeah. So like
there's a tool that does a lot of that for us. But yeah, that's a beautiful use case.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, but it's still definitely a work in progress.
I've uploaded all of I do testimonial interviews. I think partially inspired by you actually seeing yours. And I upload them all I use Poppy. If you're familiar with Poppy, it's a really cool one. You can like plug into a chat for video, especially. And I do use it for like asking it questions on like, why did this person join and stuff. But yeah, man, there's a limitless set of opportunities. I know Nick has some really cool stuff. So I made a note here. I'll come back with an update.
For sure. You mentioned that you got into this like real estate mentorship. I see you posting on socials. What are you guys doing? Developing land or rehabbing or like what?
Just basically BRRRR. So I'm gonna mess it up, but buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So very simple. I've known about it since like 2021, but I focused on business. I was like, I don't need to split my focus again. And now I realize how much of a skill real estate is rather than just like the stock market. So I'm like getting back in and like walking properties, getting used to like recognizing stuff so that I can start investing, quicker. But yeah, it's just basically buying houses. For me, it's buying houses. That people do apartments. My family does apartments, but it's a lot more of a job and I don't have that time right now. But I plan on buying a house ideally by the end of the year and rehabbing it for 2 months and then renting it out and then buying another one and so on.
Are you doing that in Austin?
No, San Antonio.
Okay. Nice. It's a better market for sure.
Dude, San Antonio is like pesos compared to the dollar. It's crazy compared to Austin anyway. Like it's funny.
Yeah. I'm from San Antonio, so I've seen it and like it's still way better than Austin, but even San Antonio is like coming up. Like a lot of people are moving there.
And it has all the Air Force bases. The only thing that sucks about San Antonio, maybe just Texas, is taxes. Some of the houses, the taxes are insane. I'm like, you can't cash flow a house in Austin. I've known that for years, or it's very hard to anyway. You have to do like special things like right by the room. But San Antonio, you can, and that's cool. And I like the culture of San Antonio. I've never lived there, but I've found as I look it up that the more I look into it, I'm like, oh, okay, there's good reason for people to be here.
Yeah, there's a lot of work down there for sure. It's a good place to have a family, I think.
What I find that's interesting though about real estate is that, and I asked a lot of the dudes at the meetup because I was curious and I had been going to a lot of properties that week. And I was like, the amount of people in the internet space that don't think about investing, and maybe it's for good reason because they need to focus on their active income. But like, it is an interesting thing that not a lot of people, at least that I've met, I mean, I've met a few, but you almost have to be at a super high level to be thinking about that. And I find it to be like, okay, if you're a sales rep making a lot of money, especially like our guys, I'm excited to bring those lessons back to them. Like I'm waiting my time, like, doing a couple deals before I talk about it, but I can't wait to bring that back to these dudes that are stacked. Like one of my setters made like, I forget the exact numbers, but like he did like a 15K month, like a 12K month, like back to back, which was dope. And he's like in college, right? So he's like just no expenses. And I'm like, all right, teaching him how to budget, put your money away. And I'm looking at real estate deals with him and I'm just showing him what I'm doing. I'm not like telling him to do anything. And I'm excited because if he actually takes action, the kid at 23 could have one or two properties under his belt and be on a flywheel to literally be, what people call a millionaire, at a young age. So I think it's really cool if people in sales have that opportunity to do that early.
That's the traditional Utah pest control to real estate, rentals pipeline, dude. I think it's a great idea. I think it's just like the way that pricing and interest rates have gone, it's gotten harder, right? But tried and true. When do you think is the right time to focus on investing? Because, with salespeople, at a certain point, it's just like, no, dude, just focus on your ability to earn active income. But like in your mind, when is the right time to like start splitting some of the attention off into like more of the longer term wealth building?
Well, I think the underrated predecessor is learn how to save your money first. And I think that's the part that investing does for you is tell you in your head, like if I want to go buy a house, it's a chunk of money, right? So even if you're like super liquid, it changes your frame to think broke. And that's important, I think, because if you're young and you make like some of our reps go out, they're from literally living in their their parents' house to like we pay for the Airbnbs as well. So they have like no expenses really. And they'll make like a 15 grand month and they'll go buy a Rolex. It's like, okay, I'm all for having fun with your money, but like in reality, if you had thought to yourself, okay, a house is going to cost me $20,000, then you would have this frame of mind that like, okay, I have one house put away. You know what I mean? And it brings you back down to zero without being at zero. And I'm not saying you got to go buy the house, but mentally, you know where you're going to put your money. And that's going to help you keep saving. Whereas if you're like 19, 20, sitting on like $60,000, $70,000, you might feel like you can just spend wherever if you don't have an investment mindset that says this money is put away. We had one guy, I won't mention his name, but he at like 20 years old made millions in the stock market, like multi-millions. Crazy story, like absolute prodigy kid, and doesn't have any reason to need to work. Put all the money in his IRA and like literally locked it away in a retirement account. Still trades with it. He did it through trading and still like doesn't touch it and works with us. Like he's actually like goes and knocks doors when he doesn't have to make money, right? And he's such an admirable character because of that. And I think that, you know, obviously not everybody's going to have the level of that kind of income, but I think having the mindset of this money's put away for investing is better than in the first 2 months going to try to start investing, because you're taking on another job. If you're going to do real estate, if it's stock market and stuff, then it's a different story. But I think learning while you earn, great. Learn sales, learn leadership, learn operations, whatever you can get under your belt, because that's only going to make investing easier. Like a lot of the real estate investors I know have no idea how to run an L10 meeting from EOS. If not everybody has to run an L10, but they don't know how to build teams. And like what you have a team underneath you is probably way more valuable of a skill set than buying a house. You know what I mean?
I mean, I haven't even taken a stab at the real estate stuff. I have like other stuff that I do, but my whole gripe with real estate is just like, unless I really give the attention towards it to learn it and like pay attention to the market and meet the right players, like it's pretty easy for me to like mess a deal up, you know? And
Yeah, it is.
that's why I've kind of defaulted to some other things,
It's
but
just totally good. Totally fine. I don't recommend real estate to anybody.
I should probably figure that out at some point in time. It's probably going to look like me meeting another high level person that knows this better than I do and then taking like a minority piece in a deal or something. That's how I learn a lot of things. The deal that you're like the one that you have going in San Antonio now, are you solo on it or are you doing with
I
somebody?
haven't bought one yet. I've walked 4 houses. I'm going to wait. I got like eyes are bigger than the stomach moment where I was like, oh, I could just jump straight. Because, you know, in business, dude, you got to go forward on things you're nervous about. In real estate, not so much, right? So I got like really deep into a couple deals and then I was like, all right, I need to learn more. And I have a really good mentor out there in San Antonio, but he's extremely busy. So at first I was hanging out with him a lot and then he had to go fly to Hawaii for something to go to Houston. And I was like, shit. So I'm doing exactly what you're talking about, meeting with people that are a lot higher level than me. I plan on having my first deal by the end of the year and ideally doing another deal sometime next year. But my primary full focus is on making sure that our recruiting is solid. And then if I can get a house in between there, great. But it's going to be as hands off as I can make it. And then my goal is to pave the way, because I have some friends in real estate that have done really well, pave the way. And then friends of mine that I trust or that trust me, if they want to, they can invest with me and I'll do the work. But I'm entirely putting my money at risk. I'm like, I don't want anybody to, you know.
I remember watching these dudes on YouTube, man. They would do door to door for like 1 summer, 2 summers, and they buy a door. They recruit people. They get their real estate license, so then they can like get the recruits to buy houses through them.
That's crazy. I didn't know all that.
Yeah, so they're getting paid for the recruits, and then they're, you know, when the recruits are ready to do deals, they buy through them as a realtor.
It's like back to back MLMs.
It's like full staff. I mean, a lot of these dudes, you know, do pretty good. Like the younger guys, like it's setting them up to do good, but they're just like really taking advantage of every opportunity at hand. The real estate stuff is definitely a good play. And, you know, there's pros and cons based on if you're in sales and you're making a certain amount, like, you know, do you want to go into single family? Do you want to do Airbnb? Do you want to do like multifamily, potentially syndication stuff? There's a lot of nuance to all that, but it's worth it.
Keep stacking bread.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're 1099, there's like tax advantages to doing some of that, right? So when you start making like 200K plus a year as a contractor, you got to figure out how to keep some of that, you know? So yeah, keep me posted on how that goes, dude. I'm interested to hear.
For sure. I just ordered Meta glasses, so I plan on posting it. And I'm very transparent about failures and stuff. I don't care to make it look cooler than it is. It's literally cleaning up piss-filled rooms, you know? It is what it is, but
That's funny. All right, dude. So how long have you been working with the company that you're with now?
I think it just crossed a year. I had forgotten, but I think it started in October of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe September.
Okay. So you've got this process ironed out that is working pretty well. You said, was it 150 recruits the last quarter?
Yeah, last quarter we landed 150. I can't take credit for all those by any means, but our process sent a lot of people through.
Sure. So you're recruiting for like 100, dude, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. You're telling me, dude.
And you're doing that quarter over quarter. I'm sure the number grows. What is like the trajectory of this opportunity for yourself? Like, is it just keep finding the best salespeople that we can and growing this company? Or like, what are you really aiming for with this?
Well, so it's kind of a twofold thing. So for the recruiting side, I want to make it as optimized and predictable as possible because the recruiting is the lifeblood of the sales business and the sales business is the lifeblood of the fulfillment side. So if we sold pest control, for example, like having a good sales team makes that a good pest control company. Having good recruiting makes that a good sales company, if that makes sense. So making sure that it's super predictable and continues to improve, that's number one priority. Obviously helps me grow my income, helps the company grow its income. Eventually, when we do probably pivot, I don't know for a fact if we will, but whatever that looks like when we change, because community solar, we don't control the payout. We invoice and it takes a while for them to pay, right? Well, if you did something like pest control where you could take money at the door, and it's great whenever high ticket sales has cash collected. I'm like, God, cash collected would be beautiful. We don't have that. We have like net 45 payments and we pay commissions early. So, like a lot of different traditional business problems. If we switch to an industry that has more of like a captive payment, like we could use something like Fanbasis or Stripe, dude. Oh my gosh. And I would want to be a part of that company as well. It would be a third company. So for me, future vision is just like trying to play a part wherever I can play a part to be a good operator and support my friend. But also, like, there are certain pieces of the companies that we're going to that it's going to make more sense because an exit is obviously something I'm interested in. But as any integrator should, I try to play what I earned. You know what I mean? I'm not a greed guy. My friend's not a greed guy. I want to change people's lives. And I know in the end, when the opportunity arises for that, if we do an exit play, I'd love to have a piece of that.
I was going to ask you, for anyone listening to this that's like, yeah, maybe I'm a sales rep now. I know how to sell. I've made some money. Kind of looking for like the next opportunity that builds upon what I know. And they hear this conversation and they're like, oh, like what Alec does on maybe the recruiting side or integrate some marketing, run some ads. Like that's interesting to me. Where did you learn how to run ads?
Someone asked me this question at your event, and I was like, a lot of money wasted. Where I learned how to learn ads versus where I would say to learn how to learn ads are a little different, but I have always been obsessed with them. And I started in video, like I did videography. I would say that the step one of ads that no one talks about, and I think Davey Ogilvy talks about it, some big names that are old school talk about it, is knowing who you're advertising to. You probably agree with this because I know you run ads for yourself. It's like if you understand your ideal prospect so well, then you could put a billboard up and it would work, right? Like ad manager is so easy to learn on YouTube that it's not an issue. If you want to learn ads, the best thing, like let's say you sell an info product to AI copywriting, as if there's not someone out there doing that, right? And you're selling to people that a biz op to like younger people. If you're a salesperson, I would go to like try to do onboarding and try to figure out every reason why someone bought. And it's a great question to ask them is like, what made you buy? What made you almost not buy? Like, go to AI and find out all the questions you can and then turn that into marketing because sales is the best first step for marketing. So my answer to how to learn ads would be step one, understand your ideal clientele, what platforms they use, what ads they click on, where they're looking at content, and then create content for that just to catch them where they're at. In terms of who to learn from, obviously Jeremy Haynes is huge. Jeremy Haynes is good, but like I think a lot of what he teaches is like I'm in his course and stuff, and I'm not in his mastermind, but I've seen a lot of stuff from it. All of it is like super high ad budgets most of the time. Like even in his course, he teaches like, dude, just direct response. So if you don't know what direct response is, like literally just run an ad to a landing page. Take a little bit of your own money. I run ads on my own dollar for products that I create, books, PDFs, things for fun, just to see how the metrics look. You know what I mean? Be willing to put your own money up. In terms of like stepping up into like an integrator role or being involved in more marketing, do stuff for free, right? At the very beginning, like you literally cost the business owner money by not knowing how to do it and by doing it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I want to help with marketing, but I don't know how. You're literally a risk to the business. So you have to understand that. Ask to be an assistant to the marketer or ask to help in places that you can add value and not get in the way, and then take on more and more responsibility of things that people don't want to do. And eventually, like the appointment setter team that we have now, it wasn't that I was just like, oh, I can't wait to earn more money. It was like, no one wanted to do this. This needed to be done. I learned TCPA compliance. I learned FTC compliance. I did all the things people don't want to do so that I could build a business. And at the end of the day, it's what you know that's going to give you an edge. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's my long-winded answer.
I'm just thinking this as you're talking through this some more. Like if I'm a door-to-door salesperson and my company operates on the downline structure, and I'm incentivized to recruit people, I might be listening to this and thinking, I should just do what Alec does for myself, for this company. You know, if someone's just a sales rep, and let's assume they have some money they're willing to put up, like, is there anything that would prevent them from making this work aside from the company not letting them? But like, is there any other bottlenecks or trouble that they should like expect?
So if it came to like recruiting for door to door, I would say first step, if you're not making a shitload of money, make sure you're making a shitload of money. You can control that. You need to have paycheck stub screenshots. Like that's first step. You're not going to want to recruit if you're not doing well. Second off, once you are doing well, as long as you have paycheck stubs to prove whatever you say, you can make income claims with the right disclaimers. And so I would start making content of what you're doing. Now it depends on what your culture is. We are really lucky because we have a very tight knit culture. They do cold plunges, they do workouts every single morning. They have really good diets. No alcohol is allowed. Like there's very strict, awesome culture. If you have that in your company, show that off. Document your life. Because if you're making really good money as a door rep, like ours are on average, and then also like within the houses, it's a really fun culture. People want that life. Like every freaking 19-year-old in the world right now is wishing they were in Miami at some penthouse or whatever. But what they really want to do is make money in a reliable trade and live around a bunch of dudes that are doing the same thing that are friends with them. You know what I mean? Like the homies. And if you're living that life, just start documenting what you're doing and be transparent about it, the struggles, the good parts. And eventually, like we've had reps that have done that, you'll start to learn what works. Just give it a long time. There's obviously shortcut ways to do it, but a lot of them have to do with like people talking about how much money they make, and you have to have compliance around that. And that's where companies get in the way, which is good because people lie. People go on there and they say they make 20 grand. I'm like, show me your paycheck stub where you made 20 grand. And they might not have. But some people go on there and say they made 10 grand and they made 26 grand. So it's like, you know what I mean? You just have to be on the right side of that.
What are your general thoughts around that with the compliance, like especially in recruiting? It's like, yeah, people are making a lot of money, but if there's like a simple checklist of like, do this, have this, and then we're good, like what is that?
Yeah. So I say you can't say an income number unless you can prove it, and you have to prove it with your screenshots of your paycheck stubs. You have to mention that we don't guarantee that. We can't guarantee anybody make money. You're probably not going to make money because we only hire like top 5% anyway. And then the third is that it's not typical. So most of this we disclaim on our videos or on our funnels. But if a rep is just making a video, and I got to get on them a lot and be like, hey, if you're talking about someone making 2 grand a day, especially if they're just in a house and they're like, how much did you make? 2 grand? You know what I mean? Like they could say anything. I'm like, we want that to be backed by at least a payroll because we have payroll. We're different than most info companies where you don't have a payroll. So it's a little bit harder. But for us, if they didn't make it, we know. So I would say, yeah, screenshots of your payroll. Make sure it's no one's like thinking you can't say, yo, you're guaranteed to make 8 grand a month. We've had reps hire agencies to help them recruit and they'll throw ads out there like that. And I'm like, dude, you're killing me. Like, no wonder. And then also just, hey, this isn't a typical result. That's just an FTC compliance thing. It's like, hey, it's not typical. Can't guarantee it, but it is possible.
Is there a difference between the rep doing that, who's technically a contractor, and like that coming from the company directly, or you just play it safe either way?
I mean, we have an agreement in place that's a compliance agreement, so it doesn't really matter. Affiliates can still cause issues. So we don't sell a product, so the FTC technically wouldn't really care about us, but I still try to be careful because it's not like they know we don't sell a product. We spoke to a lawyer about it and he was like, oh, I thought y'all did sell products. I was like, well, if you think we do, then FTC probably does, but it would still be their issue. I was actually at your event. I was helping another company through an FTC like awareness thing that they were learning about it. And I was explaining to them like, hey, if you get sued by the FTC, which is rare, but they'll go after affiliates. They don't care. So they're technically an affiliate for us.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. It's good to be aware of it. And that's like, it's a lot easier to learn that in the internet marketing space because like you're pushing ads in front of everybody and everybody, you're just like front and center. But traditional, like, dude, I've never heard a roofing company or solar company when I was in that space ever talk about like FTC. So
yeah. Well, it's because it came from info, you know, and
yeah, so a different game too. And then y'all are also like nationwide too, right?
yeah, technically.
A little different, a little bit more on the radar.
I love it. When I'm around other info marketers, like I speak a different lingo because compliance is a big deal to us and it's not always a big deal. And I'm just the overly safe guy.
Yeah, for sure. We talked a lot about how you ended up doing what you're doing, the actual recruiting process, who's good recruit, who's not, investing, some real estate, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Was there anything top of mind that you think would be good for the listener? And the listener being maybe they're a salesperson, maybe they're a sales manager, recruiter, just anything that you know that you think would be cool to share with the audience?
From the recruiting side, I would say if you have a bad culture fit sales rep, and they probably already know this, but my recommendation, full disclaimer, don't necessarily, take it as a grain of salt, fire bad culture fits. I have learn that lesson. My friend who runs his company has obviously been through so many hundreds of reps. He knows so much about sales teams. It took me 3 different fires to learn fire them fast, and it helps the culture of the team so much. So if you have that nagging sales rep, I don't care if they're a top sales rep, I don't care if they're a middle one. If they're a bad culture fit, fire them. It feels like throwing up when you're drunk and you feel a lot better. It's like something is not a good fit here. Get rid of it. That's been my own perspective of that. I actually heard that mentioned on stage at your event. I agreed with it completely. From the flip side, if someone's like a sales rep, which I know you have a pretty mature audience of sales reps, if you're looking to be more of an integrator, which is a really cool role, which I believe even Cole mentioned that you can do well as an integrator to a company, and he even recommended it, which I thought was cool. I recommend like be very observant of the company and where you can add value without being asked. And before you know it, you could find yourself doing a lot more, and just don't worry about that you're not getting paid for it initially. Business owners always make that right. You can find yourself in a very valuable position creating your own work if you do the things you enjoy for the company that helps it grow, and you might find yourself in a very favorable position.
I think no matter who you are listening to this podcast, what we're trying to do, man, like we have people on from all different industries, all different positions, people that are involved in selling things or the sales process in different ways. And like one thing that I love about podcast media around certain topics is like, dude, I can hear one thing that like changes the way I think about something that applies to me, that changes the course of everything that I do. And so, if you're a sales rep listening to this, maybe you heard that. If you're doing recruiting, maybe you heard that. But I think we touched enough topics for someone to take away something good, something to think about and be like, I'm glad I listened to that. So
Yeah, this was fun. I didn't expect to talk so broadly, but it worked out well.
yeah, for sure. Well,
I got a note about AI, so success.
I'm going to link all your stuff below, but where do you want to send people?
I don't even care. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, ask like if you have a question or something, it's just Alec Minkoff. I don't really like promote anything, and anything I do, I'm very transparent about. So feel free to shoot me a message if you're interested in anything we talked about. You can buy my course launching next. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you want to include application link or like the funnel to your applicant pool? Or I don't know how you run that.
Just DM me.
Just DM him. All right. He'll post you out on Instagram. We'll see what your profile looks like.
One of the funniest things is me removing some of our most obvious call to actions on our Instagrams and stuff has made the quality of applicant better because it's harder to get interviewed.
All right. So just make sure your profile picture is good. Make sure you're not doing any degenerate stuff on the Instagram.
That's funny.
I appreciate you coming on. It was fun.
Thank you for all you do, man. I know these people love listening to you. You have great advice.
I appreciate it, man. All right. Let's wrap it up. All right, you guys. That is the podcast with Alec. I appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully you learned as much as I did in that one. My whole thing with Because of Sales is, dude, I just want to give salespeople perspective, because having perspective gave me the ability to make better decisions that push my career further, to avoid pitfalls, to avoid wasting time. And if you can watch an episode like this, regardless of what you sell and who you sell to, and take away one nugget that changes the way that you see something that you do, or the way that you hire people, or the way that you run ads or knock doors or whatever it might be, then that was an hour well spent, in my opinion. And so if you are interested in an ongoing pulse on the state of selling, you have the skill and you just want to know what's happening in the world of sales, newsletter down below. First link, it's free. Please subscribe. I'm going to ask you every episode. And if you don't do it on this one, I'm going to ask you on the next one. So thank you guys for watching. All of Alec's links will be down below, and we'll see y'all next week. Thank you again. Take care.